Okay. Hi, Christina. How are you?
Hi, Chris.
Um, for those of you, this is our first time doing this, so forgive us if we kind of ramble on and go through things. We'll do some post editing, but we want to post some of this long form, and then we'll take little clips from it. Christina is one of our members here at the Armanol store in Albuquerque, and she was asking about how she could help the store become more popular and profitable and successful and all those things because she tells us she likes it and she wants us to be around for a while. So we said, well, let's sit down and have an interview, and we'll videotape you doing your member pickup, and you can talk about what you like and what you don't and why you shop here. And so let's kind of. I first want to go to like before you knew our store existed. I know you are very unique in most people that I'm aware of that shop at our store in that you went from vegan to full carnivore in
Yes, I
probably
did.
the span of less than a year.
Yes, I did.
So I was like super impressed for one because that's a big shift.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to get someone to go from full carnivore and just add in vegetables, or go from vegan and add in some dairy products. So for you to go that wide of a gamut on your diet is very interesting, just to me from a grocer standpoint and also like from a health standpoint. But where were you at before you knew we existed, and kind of what were you eating? Where were you shopping?
Great question. Okay, so I have always been interested in doing the right thing for my diet and my health. And throughout my life, my health and my diet has been a journey, a really a food journey. And I've always wanted to make the best decisions that I possibly could with the information that I had. And I have spent my adult life as a vegetarian and vegan, and I've always been minded that way. And when I found out about your store, there must have been some sort of a post somewhere, and a friend of mine knew my interest in healthy foods and locally sourced foods, and she showed it to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta check this place out. So I did, and that's pretty much where this whole thing begins. So I've been very excited about this store. Prior to shopping here, prior to knowing about it, I've always been a Whole Foods, Sprouts, co-op shopper, and that's the best that I knew about, and natural grocers, and always wanted to make those kinds of food shopping decisions. And something's changed now that I've been exposed to this little farm store here, Bonvita Farm Store. Uh, I I've started to learn even more about food and where it comes from and what to look for in the grocery store. So one thing that's really been surprising to me is really paying attention, even when I'm at the co-op or Sprouts or Whole Foods, places that really advertise themselves to be supporting local, and they have the packaging and the products and everything that's geared towards this idea of being the highest quality local products. If you actually pay attention, most of those foods aren't even sourced in New Mexico. And even more surprising, a lot of those foods, including the fruit, some of it's not even sourced in the United States. So being in tune to that really, really opened my eyes, and I am 100% interested in supporting local for so many reasons. It's about the local economy. It's about those farmers. It's about supporting our neighbors, so to speak. But it's also about the health and the quality of the food. I know that when I get food that's here at Bonvita Farm Store, that it's clean, it's fresh, and I don't have to worry about all those crazy warnings that you see where there's some contaminated product, and whether it's eggs or vegetables or fruits that are being recalled, and all this stuff. You don't have to worry about that at the farm store, because you're not dealing with foods being shipped across the nation, or sometimes across overseas, and they're gassed and they're frozen and they're who knows what they have to do to those foods. They're usually picked before they're even ripe, all this crazy stuff. So I know that the food I get here is good for my body, good for the environment, good for the economy, good for our local communities.
And and you have not been a member the whole time. Your first, I should have looked this up before we did this, but I think you became a member maybe either late summer or early fall of 2024. So you were shopping here on a regular basis before you became a member for quite several months. And I
Yes.
remember the first time you came in and you were asking for, you told me you were vegan and you were adding meat back into your diet and you wanted to render lard, and which I
Well-
was like impressed with such a, you go from vegan to wanting to make your own lard, but we actually, had local lard that we had grown. But I want to understand when you were, because being a member is a little bit different than just shopping in your retail, because the dynamics of pricing is different. You
That's
you
true.
don't have a flat fee that you're getting to pay, and so you, as a retail customer, you can just pick whatever you want. You can get $3 of something or $300 of something. And what was it like shopping at a place? Because one of our biggest complaints we get is that people don't know what's going to be here. They can't call, they can't see online what we have. What was that like? Was that a problem, or was it okay, or did you not really notice?
That's a really good question, and you've mentioned that I've gone through this journey from veganism to carnivore, and I've now since introduced some veggies back into my diet. That's a long journey that I've been through, and there's been a lot to it. But again, I've always been focused on figuring out the best things that are right for my health, and dealing with understanding the connection between miscellaneous symptoms and food, and I'm really, really interested in treating my body with food as opposed to medicine and Western medicine. So when I decided to, first I introduced local cheese and local eggs back into my diet, going from vegetarian to vegan, and I was okay knowing that it was locally sourced, knowing that these chickens were running around someone's farm. One of the biggest and most impactful reasons why certainly I chose to not eat meat and not eat dairy, not eat eggs, was knowing what's happening to the animals on the farm. So knowing that the cheese was local, knowing that the eggs were from chickens that were running around free, I was like, okay, I can do that, but only if it's local, right? So I've never reintroduced foods into my diet that were from the grocery store. In fact, now that I shop at Bonvita, I strictly don't go to any grocery stores at all. But then I kind of moved to this idea of, well, what happens when I cut out all the carbs and do all meat for a while? And I did that for 90 days. I did a 90-day carnivore cleanse. And I don't know if you remember, Chris, when I first started coming in, but my body has transformed with being focused on local foods, cutting out carbs, and doing. I did all meat for a while, so now I'm still heavily eating meat, but I've reintroduced veggies and eggs. Well, I always did meat and eggs, but reintroduced veggies and some nuts and other veggies, dairy. So, what was the original question?
Well,
going
two
down and on.
things. There's
Oh,
two
the
things.
membership.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Dealing with not knowing what's going to be here, number
Right.
one, because the
Right.
inventory
That's
is
okay.
not,
Oh, yes.
not
Okay.
steady
All right.
at all.
So that is a great question. That's where I was headed. So when I started doing carnivore, the cost of my food went way up because meat is expensive, and because I was going through that food journey with my health and my body, I needed to consume a lot. So I was eating a lot of expensive meat, and then I was like, okay, probably a good idea for me to do a membership now.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest things for me and having a membership is that I know that cost of food is higher. You know, quality and cost kind of go up together, and you know, I'm big on quality, and so there might be some times where a grocery store pickup is a lot of money. So if I have a membership, and of course I've had to bump up what I pay per week because I buy so much or I bring home so much, but because it's consistent, I can plan for it. I make sure every time my paycheck comes in, I put that amount in a separate account that it automatically withdraws from, so I know I'm good. So I have the security of knowing I can always come into the store. They're open 7 days a week, same hours every day. I don't know what time you open, but you close at 6.
10. We open at 10.
Okay, 10
yeah.
to 6. So that's good. I know that I'm safe with that, and so it was really helpful to have the membership, especially when I was doing my carnivore cleanse. And then the other piece to that is that carnivore cleanse that I did ended up being through the winter. It was November, December, January, which is a time when there's a lot less available locally. And so what you end up having is you have your meat year round. You have eggs year round, even though they kind of dip a little bit when it's really cold. The chickens produce less, so we're like fighting over eggs.
Yep. Yep. I remember.
Uh-huh.
We even
They're
members. We have to
rationing
kind
eggs,
of
but-
limit it a little bit to make sure everybody gets some, but everybody got some.
Yes.
Yes.
And but there's always greens because people are growing those in their greenhouses. So what's interesting, which I find very interesting, is that in the winter time there's going to be much less available, but the things that become less available are foods that are high in sugar and carbs. And so obviously your fruits aren't going to be there, and most of your veggies aren't going to be there. And so what that does in a really interesting balanced way is that nature just kind of naturally gives you an opportunity to cleanse those kinds of sugars out of your system, which is what I had done when I went on my carnivore cleanse. And so
Was that on purpose?
the
The timing, or is
kind
it
of-
totally happenstance?
it was kind of happenstance, but it was also, you know, it's one of those things where it's just something about everything fit together.
You were
Everything just
thinking
fit
about
together.
it, and you're like, well, it's wintertime,
It just
so
kinda
I should
worked.
do it.
And it just kind of ended up that way, but I realized that it was really right. You know, because like I wouldn't want to do a carnivore cleanse in the summer, the only time when the fruits are available, right?
You didn't want to miss out on tomatoes and peaches.
Right. So naturally, I'm expecting that, you know, every summer there's just like this rush of the vitamins and the sugars and all that stuff, and it's exciting when the fruits are available. And then in the wintertime, it kind of takes that natural course where you're kind of going into a cleanse. Your body is processing out all those sugars. So it feels really natural. So rather than trying to figure that out on your own, if you eat 100% local, nature just kind of does it for you. So it just seems like a very natural cycle.
Right.
And that nature knows what foods you need for the season, for the time, and that we kind of have that natural, it's almost like nature's heartbeat, you know? And so it feels really good. And since I have really focused on eating locally and eating whole ingredient foods, like single ingredient foods, my health has just gone through the roof. I feel better. I have more energy. I was never a bigger person, but it's like the fat that I did have on my body has transformed into muscle. It's just like this natural thing, and I feel really good, and I'm getting great sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. How is that logistically? Would you consider yourself like an expert or top notch in the kitchen to be able to, because you weren't, when you were full carnivore, you weren't even, I mean, we didn't even have them available sometimes, onions and garlic and things.
Yeah.
You were just straight
I
meat
just-
and
yeah.
fat and things like that.
Yeah, that's really yes. I had no idea how to cook meat because I hadn't eaten meat since I went vegetarian when I was very young, and I didn't cook before that, and so I really kind of had to figure it out. I am not a chef. I don't have those kinds of food skills. But what I did learn is how to use my crock pot. Or just throw a leg of lamb in the oven, or like have the meat cooking in overnight in the crock pot has just been, and I've just been figuring it out.
So were you just winging it, or would you Google things, or YouTube, or?
Kind of both.
Okay.
Kind of both. I think I probably ended up with some meat that was not cooked perfectly, but one of the things I learned about meat is you really can't screw it up. You really can't screw it up. I think
you can burn it.
I think you can, yeah,
Not in a crock pot.
But you can't. But like, you could even probably eat it if it's a little bit overcooked, or even if it's a little bit undercooked. But unlike, breads and stuff, if you burn it, it's done. If you mess it up, it's done. But with meat, it seems to be a lot more forgiving. So. Yeah.
So you haven't really had an issue, kitchen-wise, being like, oh my gosh, this is all I have to work with. So having done that, you could probably ride any like shortage of anything that we have, because you've had to do it with just basically one ingredient meat.
I think the key is that I have really decided, I've really committed to eating locally and eating healthy. And so I think that's the key, because I've committed. And so if there's some sort of problem or some sort of barrier, I figure out how to break through it. I think it would be easy if, it would be easy to feel like there was a million barriers, but there's not. All the barriers are in the mind. So, like I said, I've committed, I've decided, and so I figure it out. I figure it out. And yeah, YouTube is helpful, to look stuff up if you need to. And I want to talk about the lard, because I remember, what was it exactly? There was something, I think it was even before, I wanted to make a local product, and there's no butter or oil that's available locally. And so I was asking you what I should do, and you had mentioned buying some of your pig fat and rendering it, and I'm like, what? That just sounds so crazy. But I tried it. I think I bought it and it sat in my freezer for a really long time, and then eventually I got it out and I tried it. And now I do it all the time. In fact, I chop up all the fat, I stick it in the crock pot overnight, and then I strain out all the pieces, and then you get this beautiful white rendered lard, and I put it in I pour it in the jars, it cools down, and then I just use that like butter. I use it in all my pans to cook, and it's actually amazing. Like I wouldn't have a problem using butter. It's just not available locally. Right. I'd have to buy milk and make it myself if I wanted local butter. So the lard is something that's locally available, and I really I enjoy the fact that I not only do I know that it's local, but I know the farmers that raise the pigs. So it's like I'm like, oh, those are from Chris and Yana's pigs. Yep.
I remember when you first I was worried about you, because you told me that you were vegan, and you're coming in here and buying 4-pound roasts and asking, what do I do with this, or a steak, how do I cook this? And I'm like, oh, this girl's gonna be vegan again in like 3 weeks. But I was actually really impressed with how you just really seem to jump right in with both feet on things, and not just in your diet, but in shopping at our store, because there are high quality meats at other stores, including Whole Foods, and even you can't even complain a lot about Walmart even has a higher tier meat. It's not as higher tier as some of this, but they do have different levels and qualities of meats, and there's lots of butcher shops and things like that. And so when you make that shopping decision, what is your order of criteria? Is how often does local trump quality, or vice versa? Or I'm trying to phrase this in a way where I'm not trying to force you to give a certain answer. If you had 2 products here to choose from, and one of them was super local, but maybe the quality wasn't so great, but one of them was really high quality, but it wasn't local.
Well, and when you say it wasn't local, what do you mean by that? Because it seems to be there's
okay,
an
so here we go.
umbrella of local, right?
So There's not a lot of places that sell rabbit. There's No Bull, I think, sells rabbit.
Okay.
But it's not from here. I want to say someone sells rabbit. Oh, well, the co-op. You shop at the co-op. Their chicken is from California. That's the last time I checked. They could have changed recently because they move things around because we get things from them. But it's not local. I'm sure the quality is fine. I've never had it. The price may be slightly cheaper. Of course, when you're a member, it doesn't matter because you don't look at the price as much. So how does that play when you're trying to decide to go all in, like on Farm to You and Bonvita, versus saving a little bit of money and just getting the California chicken from the co-op?
Well, I think that there's probably a small amount of variance, but in general, I think it's pretty safe to say that the more local it is, the higher quality it is. And I think everything's a case-to-case basis, and I just try to make the best decisions I can. I also pay attention to, because some things are local. If some things are locally made, and so they say local on them, but if you also, depends on how strict you're being or how much you're really going into it, because you can have a product that's made locally but out of ingredients that are not locally sourced.
Okay.
And then also with meat, you could have meat that's raised locally, but there's a difference between locally raised meat that's eating grains versus locally raised meat that's eating grass.
Right.
And then there's a difference between grass-fed and grass-finished, right? Because grass-fed doesn't necessarily, it just means that at one point in its life, it ate grass.
Yeah, it runs the whole gamut.
So there's all those things. So I do the best I can, to go 100% as close to local and as close to grass.
Where do you think you are percentage-wise? Because, you can't get salt or black pepper.
Okay,
that
let's
doesn't
talk
grow
about salt.
here. So.
Right. So for salt, right, because we can't get salt in New Mexico.
Right.
But the salt that I like to get, because I know that there's a lot of great salt products. The salt that I like to get is from Utah. So at least it's from the United States.
Correct.
And so the Utah real salt. I think it's Redmond's, mined in Utah.
Where do you get that?
Well, when I was shopping at grocery stores, I would get it at, I think I would get it at Sprouts.
Okay.
But stuff like that, since I just get it online now.
Okay.
But I know where it's from. Also some things, like I've decided that I do want to include salmon in my diet, and that's obviously something wild caught only.
Yeah.
Only wild caught. That's obviously something that will never be in a store that sells things only locally from New Mexico. So I will get wild caught salmon. That's probably right now the only thing that I'm not getting from the farm stores.
Right. And we talked about this. We actually have salmon from our realtor. Her family fishes for salmon in Washington State.
Oh, wow.
And then they bring it here. So we have 2 cases of sockeye salmon in our freezer, but it's not local, so we don't sell it in stores. It's just we bought it for our family because our kids love salmon.
Yeah.
So
there's some things like that.
Yeah, and that's been the hard thing on our part is running the store is, that's a better option than probably most of the salmon in the store. But then at the same time, we don't want to bring it in here, even though, their family lives in New Mexico and then part of the year they live in Washington. It's kind of half pseudo-local, but we also don't want to confuse people because once you start graying that line, when does it stop? And do you start doing, because we already do like coffee, which you just physically can't get coffee. But we could also take the position that we can get fish. That's coming hopefully soon because Desert Verde, who grows our lettuces indoors, they use aquaponics and they grow tilapia in those tanks, but they can't process them yet. So we can't have tilapia fillets in here until they're allowed to legally process it and sell it to us because they can only sell us a whole live fish. So if you'd like some whole, would you want some whole life tilapia? You'll have to gut it and cut it your own. It'll arrive on
Yeah,
ice.
I think I'll wait.
You want to wait? Okay. You did the lard, so if you said yes, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm sure Andrew would love to sell you some tilapia. But yeah, they supposedly are getting a facility together where they can even smoke it and things like that.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, I'm very. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview, and I just want I want everybody to know about this place. I think raising awareness is very important. One of the reasons, probably one of the biggest reasons for me, is not only is this a good thing, and we want to see more of good things. We want to see our farmers being taken care of. We want to see this high quality food being in abundance, in availability in our local areas. Just in general, this is a healthy thing. I think the marker of a healthy community is local farming and the community having access to that great food. But also, selfishly, I couldn't survive without having access to this food. So I want more and more people to get themselves in here and just start,
okay, doomsday scenario. If this store disappears, where do you go?
I don't know. So I'm not sure. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So let's instead
and you're
of
allowed
that
to be
scenario-
honest, because I know if
Instead of
you're
that
naming
scenario,
competitors or whatever, it's fine.
Let's just imagine these stores just popping up all over Albuquerque
Yes.
and all over New Mexico State. Let's just do that instead. I'm very concerned about the statistic that local farmers, actually make like $0 in income
Negative
from farming,
some
or
years.
negative.
Yep.
So I don't really understand why that is, but we must do something about that. We need real farming and real food to be something that can be done, that more than just because someone for whatever reason decided to do it
Right.
for fun. So like this needs to be a real thing again. And I don't know, people, you were talking about the convenience of knowing exactly what's at the store and stuff. It's, as a society, as a community, we've gotten so used to being able to go to a grocery store and having everything available. And that it's almost like we've forgotten what real food is. And when you go into those grocery stores after having kind of been become aware of more about food and the importance of that quality for our own health, you start to see things. When you learn about the pesticides and the chemicals that are on the foods, or you start looking at the packaging and you see all these things you can't pronounce, and you learn about the very harmful effects of seed oils, and then when you start to notice that seed oils are in everything, and when you start to draw that connection between the food that we're eating as a society and the just devastating health effects, we're not even noticing that correlation, but when you start to notice it, you can't unsee it. And we want to be healthy, we want our kids to be healthy, we want our communities to be healthy, and local farming is the way to go. And so we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
We need to figure this out.
I would love to open one a year. If I could bang out one store a year, I would be pretty excited, because I think we could have probably 4 to 6 of these in the metro area, and then obviously start putting them Santa Fe, Farmington, Las Cruces, Tucumcari, Gallup, Grants, places like that, and then we build a huge network of local farms. We're probably somewhere between 60 and 70 right now, and there's a lot of them. But we hope that it's a way to spur more people to see that there's an outlet other than farmers markets. And I want to ask you about that too. Because farming, like you said, it can be fun for a short time, but to do it year after year after year, as a farmer myself, I say it is not always fun, and it's very expensive. Most of the time you need a decent amount of land, depending on what it is you're growing. Microgreens is very easy to start in your garage, but you can't start beef or yak or chicken or poultry or corn in your garage, you need acres of land. And so it's not, I mean, we never have corn in here. It's very rare because it has to be sprayed and grown in ways that most of our customers don't want to deal with. What about farmers markets? Are you visiting farmers markets this summer?
Last summer I was excited about the farmers markets opening up. They open up usually around May, isn't that right?
Yep.
So that's coming up. It's April now.
Well, downtown's already open. I think they
Okay.
did 2 weeks ago, maybe.
So here's what happened last summer. I was very excited about the farmers market. I was also, of course, excited about the store, and it was just so convenient to come into the store. I didn't end up going to any farmers markets.
That makes me giddy.
Yeah, but because the farming, I love the farmers markets, but you have like a 2-hour window or a 4-hour window, and it's only on a Saturday or it's only on a Sunday, and it just didn't make it. It was just easier to come to the store where I know it's open every day, 10 to 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, me personally, like I just as a farmer who's done farmers markets, I get it, they're fun, but I think of them as fun events. They are not
feel more
designed
like
for
they
farmers.
They feel like more like events, and I think it's really good, and I'm so glad that they exist. I think they're actually a great way to bring people in that are kind of looking to it as an event, but then they also are getting exposed to the local farm products. But there's a lot of products that, again, there's the difference between something that's made locally and something that's made locally and sourced locally, like
Right.
where the ingredients are sourced locally. So, and both are good. Both are good, but I really, it's important to me that the food is actually grown in New Mexico or
Okay.
raised. Yeah.
What is your favorite thing about this store? Absolute top notch, the top thing.
That it's here, I guess, that it exists.
No, more pinpoint than that.
Well, it's more than just the food that's on the shelf. It's also the people, and coming in, and I come in so often that I've got to know all of the cashiers and even the farmers that do work here. So it starts to feel like we're friends, and maybe even family. You come in, oh hi, like they know my name, I know their name, and we're chatting, and so it's not a grocery store. It's a community. It's a community.
That's
And
funny
so
you say that, because that's what I tell the staff is we don't sell groceries, we sell a unique shopping experience.
Yeah.
The groceries just come along for the ride. Okay, what is your least favorite thing about what we do? Not maybe the store specifically, but just how we operate, or it doesn't sound like it's going to be the people. What is your least favorite thing? What can we work on better?
Well, there are some products that I know are made locally that I am really excited about, and I'd really like them to be available.
Which,
One product in particular is it's the apple orchard. Is it Montoya Apple Orchard? think it
there's
says with an M.
Montoyas who sell us produce. They sell us cherries and plums. They might be the same family. They may not.
There's an apple orchard that they have all these great local apple products, and they have an apple cider vinegar.
Yep.
And I don't know how much of it they make or how available it is, but that is a staple product that I'd really like to have in my diet.
How do you know about them?
So, okay,
Because I know the ones that provide us fruit, they sell at lots of farmers markets, rail
Yes.
yards. They do other things, and I think they are just throwing us what they don't sell when they
Okay.
have surplus. And so it may be that because we've tried, sometimes we don't do it as much as we used to, but sometimes we would reach out to people for particular products, and they just either don't have the capacity or
Right.
want to take on another wholesaler. That hasn't happened in this case because I haven't. If it's the same family, because yes, they would bring us stuff and say, oh, we have extra because I think like cherries, they brought us cherries last year, and they would show up after they did rail yards on Sundays and deliver cherries. But I also know that they make lots of other things, but they never show up with those other things. Like I know they do apples. Obviously, if they're making apple cider, they have apple trees, but they've never brought us apples, and that's kind of and that's one of our things too. The kind of the way we operate is we don't feel it's our position as a grocery store to tell another farmer or business how to run their business. So if they come to us and they want to sell, then they can sell. But we're not going to be like, why are you selling us cherries and not apples? We don't even want to pose the question. If they're ready to sell us apples, they will show up and we will buy them. And so it's kind of, we take and that's probably what you don't like about us, is that we have that passive aggressive approach to, in our minds we're like, why aren't you bringing us apples? And you mean you make cider that one of our members really loves, but we never see it? But we don't want to feel like we're guilt tripping either.
And I imagine that over time, as you grow and people are more aware, you have more customers coming in, also more farmers knowing that they can bring stuff here, that your products is going to grow.
It's way more organic now than it used to be.
So I understand that. The reason why I know about them is because before I started shopping here, I was a member of one of the local CSAs, and they always have that product available. Well, not always, because it's just like any source of local food. The availability of products is going to shift and change throughout the seasons, but also just in general. So, but that's how I know about it. And so, I think it's expected that it's going to take time to grow more and more products, but that you will.
And it's a litmus test for us, because we have a very unique model. We are different. Some farmers have a tough time with the whole name your price thing. Some people still ask us to tell them a price, and we're like, we don't do that. What do you need to get for this product for your work? The Hertzlers do that. They've been selling to us for years. They're one of the first ones we started buying produce from. And, she comes in and she's still like, what do you guys think? And we're like, Mabel, give us a number. We write it down, and that's how much you get paid. And so it's very different. And we've even run into some people who just don't like our system because it is growing and growing fast. And we do have certain ways that we have to manage things to make sure we don't mess up and make sure that everyone does get paid. We have some farmers that don't, like that we pay by ACH. They want cash, but we can't pay, and it's a safety thing for us too. Like, I don't want thousands of dollars of cash sitting in the store.
Absolutely.
It depends on who, because we have people that come to us sometimes and maybe they're just not in the right time or set up, or it takes them a while to get the ball rolling. So there's a lot of reasons why things aren't in here sometimes.
Well, and I think that it's to be expected that this is a new thing. So I think we're all figuring it out.
Oh yeah.
We're in this together, and we're all figuring it out. And anytime something is new, there's a process of, well, that doesn't work. This works better. We're going to make these adjustments. And I think the key is that we just need to make sure that this place, and local food is available, and this survives. And that it grows. And it's much less about. It is a business, but it's much less about business, and it's much more about community and health.
Right.
And health is huge. It's huge. So.
Okay. All right. Well, are you ready to do your shopping?
Yes. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna walk around the store and do my shopping. So let's get started. Come on over. So here is the shelf of all the greens. There's greens from all different farmers all over New Mexico, different kinds of greens. And I usually like to get some lettuce, and there's the microgreens here. And right now is the special magical time of the year where asparagus is available. And we were talking earlier about how we're so used to having things available year-round or most of the year round, and at first it seems strange that, like, we're only going to have local asparagus. How long is it? Is it about a month?
It can be a couple months.
About
Once it
a
gets
month
warm,
or
it
2
turns
months
woody.
of the year.
Yeah.
So the asparagus comes in. It's really exciting. We bought a bunch of it, cooked a bunch of it. It's so good. You appreciate it because you haven't had it in a whole year. And then in 2 months, we won't have it anymore. And you know what's interesting is that now that I'm starting to get on this rhythm of locally available food, now it's starting to seem strange that we would expect food to be available year round. And now when I see food like asparagus in the grocery store when asparagus is not in season, I think that's weird. So anyway, asparagus is available right now. It's very good. This particular asparagus is green and purple, so I know it's got lots of nutrients in it. And so these are the greens, okay? And
I know your shopping habits, because I've seen you do this so many times. You don't basket. You
I know,
shuttle back and forth between the counter and the food.
I do that, yes. I do. Okay, I'm going to come back to pick up those things. Let's talk about the food that's over here. So we have this yodel, which is drinkable yogurt. We also have half and half, and there's chocolate milk and regular milk, and the small version and the big version. And
You don't need to go through all the products. Let's just do your shopping. Just shop. Do your trip and tell us why you like certain things
Okay.
and what you like. And if you don't like things, you can be honest.
Okay, well, they have the delicious versions of things with sugar and strawberry flavor and chocolate flavor. I stick with the plain. Version. This yodel is really awesome. So drinkable yogurt. It's great to drink. It has a ton of probiotics in it, so super healthy. And also, if you're a woman, this is also a great product to use in the woman areas for balancing and health. And so this is a great product. They also have, oh, you told me not to do that. Okay. Mushrooms, cheese.
Do you do many mushrooms right now, or are you staying away from those?
I am, but I'm still getting used to mushrooms in general. So,
Was that a big part of your diet when you were vegan?
not really. But I want it to be. In fact, one of the things about eating local and I mean, being pretty strict about very healthy local food is that when something is available, I wanna eat it, like the mushrooms. So I want to start eating those more. Okay. Okay, so there's meat. A lot of meat. I've been eating a lot of meat. And there's always different, unique, kind of exotic things in here. And let's see what we got today. And every time I come in, I have to like look through it to see what it is. Okay, so the oxtail beef, I do this a lot. And I just stick this in the crock pot. And it makes really good bone broth, plus all the meat comes off and is really great. And then what's also interesting is that the bones in there, I don't know, I've been saving some of the bones and intend to do some sort of fun art project at some point, but we'll have to get that in the part 2 because I haven't started that project yet. And then I've been doing a lot of these ribs. These ribs are really good. These are beef. I don't think I've done the beef ones yet. I've been doing a lot of yak ribs, and Chris and I were talking earlier. It is really interesting to be exposed to the different types of meats. And again, it seems odd at first, eating something that is yak or eating rabbit. It seems odd just because we're not exposed to it. It's not in the usual mainstream of how we think about food. But when you finally actually try it, you realize, oh, this is not only not bad, but it's actually good. It's actually good, and it's actually not weird. And then you start to realize that it's weird that we thought it was weird in the first place. And the eggs are fun. I obviously get chicken eggs all the time, but this is like extra fun. We have emu eggs, and they're very special. I like getting these and eating them, but also removing the yolk in a way that preserves the shell. So again, I'm hoping to do some art projects with this. And these shells are very, very thick. They're just beautiful and dark green and big and very thick. And so I think that it will actually need a Dremel to etch do some kind of art designs when I get to those. So these are very special, and again, they're also, even these unique eggs, they have all these different unique eggs: turkey, quail, goose, duck, all this stuff, emu. These are seasonal also. So I think that probably soon there won't be any more emu eggs,
Nope,
right?
they will stop
So
laying.
these are
They
special.
may have already stopped.
Yeah, it will, and it's actually Easter today, and around this time seems like we have the whole variety. So eggs and Easter being a thing makes sense.
Are you getting any eggs, or?
I will. Yes, I am. You want me to actually pick them
Yeah,
up?
do your shopping.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take 3 of these right now, and I do walk it all the way back. So it's fun. Okay. Actually, I think I am gonna get some meat today. So, yeah, there's the rabbit, there's lard, or yeah, the fat.
What do you got?
I got a beef chuck roast and a beef rump roast. I love these big chunks of meat. I'm just throwing it in the crock pot and get it all soft and delicious. Okay, there's more meat here. Sometimes you have little steaks here, and ground beef, ground lamb. I'm gonna get some more of that. Okay, let's see what else. So one of the other products that I really love are the pecans. We have pecans coming from all different places. These ones are from Socorro. There's also pecans that you normally have. Here they are. From Hatch Valley. These ones are my favorite, so I'm gonna put these ones back. And then the big bag of unshelled pecans from Albuquerque. So I'm gonna get these. I like the local teas. And generally, I do stick with the 1 ingredient foods, but I appreciate the fact that we have some baked goods that are made by the farmers, and apples, and these fun snacky foods. I really appreciate that you have these chips. In that,
I used to buy a lot of those.
I used to buy a lot of them before I cut all the carbs, and I cut all the grains. But these are great because they're made with coconut oil as opposed to seed oils. And when you learn about the harmful effects of seed oils in your body, it's just mind-blowing when you go into a regular grocery store and you see the entire aisle of chips, and every single chip in that entire aisle is cooked in seed oils. And so I appreciate this product. I appreciate this there. So that's a great product. And then the Valencia flour mill. So the Bombita Farm Store has a whole pallet of local flour over here, and then these special products. The flour is actually grown in Four Corners area, and then it's milled locally down at the Valencia mill. So that's just south here of Albuquerque. And so they have just regular flour, and then these 3 products: blue corn muffin mix, fried bread mix, and sopapilla mix. The mill itself is ancient. It's an antique that this family has had for generations and generations. And if you ever get the chance to go and see it, it's just unbelievable. It's like out of the 1920s or something. It's just insane, and it's just so cool that we have this here. Most people don't even know that. So if I were to buy a flower product, it would be from Valencia. And then this is one of my, I love this product. This is essentially, it's buffalo balm, and I don't know the woman that makes it, but Ashley, thank you, Ashley. I love your product. So
That was just featured in ABQ magazine last month, I think, or this month.
this is it's basically what it is it's beef tallow, a buffalo tallow, and it's tallow is really the only thing you ever want to put on your skin. So I use this for lip balm, lotion. Anytime I need to put something on my skin, I use this. I don't use any products that are mystery products that I don't, So I love this stuff. Thank you. And then the soaps, of course, are very clean. The products here are clean. So that's it.
That's all you're getting today?
I don't know. I think so.
If that's all your shopping and you're done, then we can go check you out.
Okay. I think.
Oh, your greens. You haven't got any greens.
Oh yeah, I need to get the greens. That's right. Okay, that's where we started. So let's see. And whenever and I know, like, for example, I know the farmer that does the greens that are always bagged like this. So whenever I get a bag like this, I'm like, oh yeah, I know her. I'll try it.
Lost you.
I think that's it. That's good. I'll get a sunflower.
Good.
Sunflower. Okay. Greens, meat, nuts, eggs. Oh wait, I almost forgot.
Yeah, there's more stuff over there. Are you looking for anything specific?
Yes, actually, for the milk on this side of the store, they have raw milk that also has the fun flavors, but I stick with the plain. And this size is perfect for me. The raw milk has to be consumed quicker because it is not pasteurized, but it's better for you. So I always get this small size. Is perfect for me, one person. And those products are great too, but I prefer this one. Okay, that's it.
Okay, all that's in.
Awesome.
Yep, so that's about 160 bucks right there, and you're doing what, 225 a week, and you're here what, 2 or 3 times a week?
Probably.
Yep. How much do you think you would be spending if this store wasn't here and you weren't a member?
A lot more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because yeah, that's a big difference. I don't know. And it depends too, because some of this stuff like you can't get. Oh yeah, take the
I'm
stickers.
taking extra stickers.
Yeah, go for it. A guy yesterday in Belen said he was going to put it on his hard hat at work.
Nice.
I was like, yes. I was like, can you do the peas or the cow? So yeah.